Hello there, how's it going? In this video we are going to begin chapter 3 and we're going to talk about lists. And list is going to be our first introduction to something called a data structure. Now, what are lists? So far we have been creating variables like this, right? Name equal to June, for example. Now this is just one value, June, or num equal to 5. But list actually allows us to store multiple values. What we call it a collection. We call it a collection, and it is very similar to list from real life. So you can have a shopping list, for example. You might have eggs, bread, milk. This is very similar to a list in Python. And in order to create a list, I can say my list. So the name of the variable, my list, is equal to, we use square brackets for a list, and then in the list we can add our items. So let me move around the screen a little bit. Let me make it full screen, and we can put our items. Eggs, so it's a string, and then a comma, and then bread, and then a comma. So we separate the values by comma, and finally milk, and we close the list. So that's a very basic idea of list. It is a collection of values. Collection of values. Collection of values. So now that you know what lists are and how to create one, let's go to our code and create a list. So let me create a file, intro.py. I'm going to introduce list to you, and let's open the file now, intro.py. So I created a list called my list. It's the name of the variable, but this is the list. Eggs, bread, and finally milk. You can have as many items as you want. I can add one more. What would it be? Let's say meat. Now I can print my list. Let's run the code, python intro.py. Now this will show you all the items inside your list. Perfect. And that was the introduction. Now let's go back to the book and see what the book is teaching us. In this chapter, you will learn what lists are and how to start working with the elements in a list. This allows you to store sets of information in one place, whether you have just a few items or millions of items. Yes, there is no limit to the number of items in a list. You can have as many as you want. But maybe million is an exaggeration, but you can work with tens of thousands of items. Yes, million might be an exaggeration. Lists are one of Python's most powerful features, readily accessible to new programmers, and they tie together many important concepts in programming. Exactly, they tie together many important concepts. Right now, we are giving you introduction, so it might not be as useful as it looks, but when we learn more concepts such as loops, for example, lists will become very useful. So what is a list? Let's see. A list is a collection of items in a particular order. Yeah, that's a very good definition. collection of items in a particular order. You can make a list. You can make a list that includes the letter of the alphabet, the digits from 0 to 9, or the names of all people in your family. Yeah, perfect. So it is a collection of items in a particular order. What does it mean? Let's go back to our writing tablet and let me show you what it means. What does the order mean? Actually, each number in the list has a position. So eggs is the first item, bread is the second, and milk is the third. However, we programmers actually like to count from 0. So the position for eggs is actually 1. For bread, for eggs it's actually 0. For bread it's 1. And for milk, the last item will be, the number for the last item will be 2. Although it's the third item, but we programmers will say that its index is 2. So this is what we call index. The first item has the index 0, second item has the index 1, and the third item is the third item, but the index is 2. And when we print the list, we get the whole list. In order to get individual item, let's say the first one, we type the name of the list, we use square brackets, and we type the index. So that will give us the first item. Let's run the code and see what happens. Python intro.py. We got the first item. The same way we can get the second item with index 1 and third item with the index 2. So whatever position you want, it will always be -1 because we are starting from index 0. And it's a little difficult for beginners to get used to it, but believe me, if you practice it a little bit, it will become second nature, because we see this pattern everywhere in programming and in maths as well. We start our counting from 0. Some people might give you reasons for why this is so. Well, there are reasons, but it's better to memorize right now instead of learning why we start from 0, because it can get very technical. Anyways, so let's see what the book is saying. A list usually contains more than one element. It's a good idea to make the name of your list plural, such as letters, digits, or names. Okay. In Python, square brackets indicate a list, and individual elements in the list are separated by commas. Yep. Now let's create a list from the book. Let me get rid of my code and let's do what the book is saying. Bicycles, track, Cannondale, red line, specialized. Now we can print our bicycles and we can run the code, of course. Accessing elements in a list. Now, in order to access elements, we use indexes. Lists are ordered collections. Ordered means that each item has a position. That's what it means. They have an index. We can use the index to get the item. In other collections, there are multiple ways of storing values. List is one of them. They might or might not have an index. However, lists are all ordered collections, so you can access any elements in a list by telling Python the position or index of the item desired. To access an element in a list, write the name of the list followed by the index of the item in square brackets. Okay, yeah, we know that. So I'm going to remove it. And let's do it. Print bicycles with the index 0. And we got our list first. Because we are printing the list first, and then we got the index of we got the item, our first item. Now you can also apply string methods because it's just the first item, like title. And let me remove this. Let's go to our terminal and run the code. We got our first item as title. Now index position starts as 0, not 1, as I said. If you think that the last item, if you start counting from 1, 2, 3, 4, the last item would be 4. If you try to do this, then you'll get an error. Let's try it. Index error. See, the name of the error is index error. Python is saying at index 4 there's nothing. At index 4 there's nothing. So if you want the last item, you can count from 0, 0, the first is 0, second is 1, the third is 2, and the fourth will be 3. Now this will work. Perfect. And yeah, one more thing, very important. We can actually start counting backwards. We can also count from backwards. So if we count from beginning, our index would be 0, yes. But we can also start counting from backward. If we count from backward, the index from the index of the last one is -1. The index of the second last is -2, and so on and so on and so on. So if you want the first item, it's very easy to do because it will always be 0. And if you want the last item, well, you have two choices, but this can change, right? It could be 2, it could be 3, 4, depending on how long your list is. But if you count from negative, it will always be -1. So if you want to get the last item, the best way is to do -1. The best way to do is through -1. Specialized. Perfect. Using individual items from the list. Yes, you can take each item from the list and do whatever you want with it. So here we are creating a message. So we are creating an F string. My first bicycle was a bicycles 0 and the title, and print and we can print it. And let's see, my first bicycle was a track in title case. Yes, you can do anything you want with each item if you know how to get them using an index, just like a variable. You can store that in a variable. See, you can do b equal to, let's not say b, let's say my bicycle equal to bicycles and 0. Now you can print my bicycle dot title. That would work. Intro.py. Let me clear the screen first and let's run it. Python intro.py. Now first we are creating the list and the message. Now we are getting our first item. Now we are printing the message, and finally the title, the bicycle in title case, and here it is, the message and my bicycle dot title. So I guess this is it for the video, and in the next one we will do try it yourself, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.